The news review is on your favorite show, the AM show. My name is Benjamin Akakpo. We'll be joined shortly by Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante, but let me just let you know that this segment is brought to you courtesy of Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. So they are so charitable. They are offering you and me, they're offering us free prostate screening, and if you're female, fertility screening as well at all their offices dotted across the country. So let's let you know about some of them. The first is here in Accra, at Spintex opposite the Shell signboard. In Kumasi, Kronumabwe here behind the Angel Educational Complex. In Takrade Anaji State, Tema Community 22, Techiman Hanswa and Esiama in Zama. I'm sure you're excited. You'd like to call them. These are the numbers on which you can reach them. 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. But let's kickstart the news review. Doc, welcome to Wednesday on the AM show. Hello, Doc. Can you hear me?
Yes, I'm here. I can hear you, but I can't see you. That's no problem.
Oh,
Yes.
Unfortunately, this morning you can't see me. Well,
Yes.
we're working on that. We'll work on that so
No
you
problem.
can see me.
That's good.
Right, in living color.
Once I can hear you, that's good.
Great to go. I'd just like to find out before we get into the papers, Kamala Harris has been in town, and one of the topical matters, LGBTQI+. It's come to the fore again, and it's stoked the craw, if you like, of our Speaker of Parliament, who has had some very stern words to say on the back of what she brought up. Again, some have criticized the president for not being firm. What is your take on this? Have you followed that matter?
Yes, I have. Ben, let me greet you one more time, and then our viewers. Let me say that before I go into the matter, there are a few questions I want us to reflect on. This bill, before it was introduced to Parliament, I want to find out who is forcing Ghana to pass such a bill. I want to really know. Are we under any, agency to pass it if we need to? All right. And for what reason are we passing it? As a student of international relations, I know that within the international system, it is highly chaotic system. That there are things that are considered gray areas, for which reason, as soon as you touch it, all eyes come on you and you suffer consequences. So my first question is that why do you go in for something which is controversial in nature and it can create problems for you? And then you say you want to work on it in your country, nobody is forcing you, and you come out with it, and then now all eyes are on you. So is it not the case that we are, inflicting this pain to ourselves? So I have a difficulty. Here. Now, coming back to your question, if you look at the comment the president said, I am with him. All right. This is a very difficult subject that you need to be extremely careful when you talk about it. Have you heard John Mahama speak about it? No. As far as I'm concerned, I haven't heard any. This is a very difficult subject. Before the introduction...
Well, he's spoken about it before, at least from what I recall. So did former President Mills,
But yeah.
and even former President, I mean, the current President, Nanado, has also spoken on that matter. You remember that interview and what he said back then, and what is panning out now. What he said that was, became topical when he said it was bound to happen. And now, so incrementally, if you like, the conversation has come up.
Yes, but all that I want to say is that it's a difficult subject that you need to be extremely careful because there are consequences. If you don't pass it and donors get angry, if you pass it and it doesn't satisfy the interests of donors, you have a problem. If you do otherwise, your people here too, which majority of them are saying they are not for it, you are going to have a problem. So my thinking is that I did not see if the need to even go into it if there was no urgent need to pass such a bill. I did not see that, but I may be wrong. Somebody can come out with something different, but that is where I see. So all the talk and all the attacks about the president, I think, is not fair. Yes, he has given a very, the best that he would give under the circumstances.
Some have said that he's merely vacillating, that he's not being categorical. Former President Atta Mills was categorical on what he felt was the stance of the people. Former President Mahama, also pretty categorical, but maybe not as stern as Atta Mills. May his soul rest in peace. When you look at the rhetoric of international politics, you must be politically correct. As students of politics, we both know that. Sometimes even you must tread that fine line. But when you talk about what precipitated or necessitated this bill, as some have suggested, they said the activities of LGBTQI groupings in the country and some of what they were peddling, especially to young people, and that these were acultural, anti-cultural, as far as we are concerned, were becoming problematic. If you look at Germany right now, they have an issue where even in the Catholic Church, some of the bishops in that country, a few of them have had some sort of conclave, if I can call it that, and decided that they will bless gay marriages. And the church has roundly rejected that. Other German bishops have roundly rejected that. It is simmering. It's becoming a problem. So those are some of the things that those who are proponents of the bill looked at and said, look, we don't want it to get to this point. Now, I want us to contextualize it even further from both ends. Uganda, for example, has legislated, and I feel the maximum penalty for one of the offenses, the major offense, is 20 years imprisonment. It affects peddling anything concerning LGBTQI, and sort of promoting it, among others. I don't know whether you've seen some of the documentation. So they are basically saying it is illegal in all its forms. Then, on the other hand, we have those who will say it's all about human rights and choice. The speaker says that, look, this is unnatural, because even from the biblical standpoint, we're meant to fill the earth, procreate and fill the earth. With all of these views, and especially situating it from the cultural context, what do you make of it? Moving forward, what should be our rhetoric? Because like the speaker mentioned, he also makes the point that why don't these Western countries go to like the Gulf states, the Arab states or the Muslim states and make such statements? You would realize that they often avoid them in these states, partly because it has been suggested they are oil rich, they are self-sufficient, and you cannot come there. I mean, look at the example of the last World Cup in Qatar. You get it? So the dynamics are many and varied. How do we find our own space, appreciation? I think this is like democracy. Democracy is what it is. Rule of the people, by the people, for the people. But in India, it is practiced in a certain context. In South Africa, it's practiced in a certain context. In Australia, it's in a certain context. In the United States, it's in a certain context. In Ghana, it has its own context. What's your take?
Right. But before you can, stand boldly and talk about these things, you should have done your homework. All right. One of the homeworks is that you should have also, been able to, provide for yourself the resources you need to run your country. If you don't have that and you need to rely on them for support, why can't they dictate to you? All right. So where lies your independence?
In other words, our lack of self-sufficiency has also brought us to this point. That's what you're saying.
Yes. Oh, yes. I mean, within the international system, you need to be a top dog or you be bullied. All right. So if you are not, you know what to do in order to get to that level. If you don't have that, all the talk will be what? Empty talk. Because when it comes to the crunch, you rush to them for bailout. You rush to them for support and the rest of them. Then that one, yes, you can make all the statements in your country, all right, that shows that you have something to offer and all that. But as to whether you can make same before them when you meet them, look at how we have mismanaged the economy to the extent that now we are going around all over the world, begging, groups, countries, and leaders to go and speak on our behalf so as to forgive us our debt and help us to go through this process. Can you imagine this? If you have done it right from your own perspective, all right, you wouldn't suffer this pain of globe-trotting, going around the world to as it were, to beg for some of these things. In the same vein, when you look at this issue, yes, you can have such strong positions. Yeah, you pose very interesting questions. Why are they not, saying same to Saudi Arabia, to oil-rich countries and all that? You also answer the question. They have what it takes to be on their own and forget about the rest of the world. All right, that is how international politics is. So if you don't have that, that is not to say that I support or I don't support what we are talking about. But the issue is that before you can muster courage and talk the way you want to talk, you should also do your homework so that you don't go to anybody for a bailout or support. Otherwise, yes, you can make your talks here. It will be nothing. Nobody will hear your voice, even though you will be saying all manner of things. Nobody will hear your voice because when it comes to the crunch, you come for them for support. And that is where the problem is. Going forward, I believe that, and I want to say this, are there no laws in this country that regulate the conduct of people with regard to these practices that we are talking about? I'm sure there are certain laws, all right?
There are laws about unnatural carnal knowledge and a few other things that some feel does not suffice in the current context. Don't you forget that the 1992 Constitution itself has been, in a way, for lack of a better word, bastardized because they feel it, in some aspects, not the whole thing, but it has lost relevance in some aspects of guiding our society.
Yes, but Ben, have you also followed some of the weaknesses of this country that we have not been able to enforce even the few laws that exist?
Right.
Have we enforced them?
Right.
Have you been able? So what is the guarantee that if you pass a new one, it will be enforced rigidly and the rest of them? These are some of the questions. Yes, you can have 20 laws, 100 laws. Yes, I don't have a problem with that. But will you be able to enforce them? That is where the reality is. That on that score, you see that the state is weak in terms of its capacity, regulatory capacity of enforcing law. So you can have 20, 30, add to it, fine laws, beautiful, no problem. But if you don't enforce them, it comes back to what? Nothing. So going forward, we want to make sure that if you are taking such conversation from the global system, you need to weigh the pros and cons extremely carefully before you stick your neck out. You should also do your homework that you are economically self-sufficient so as to give you certain gravitas in order to face the big powers within the international system. And you should be able to also do things for yourself so that you don't rely on people for bailout and all that. Once you are able to do this, you will get the courage to speak the way you want to speak. And then you chart your own path. That tells you that you are really an independent candidate. But for now, let us look at them and look at them carefully before we make moves and all that, so that we don't suffer consequences from within and without.
We've had this lengthy bit of a discussion because this is a very topical matter. I noticed on social media, a lot of people were talking about it. But something else just came to mind very briefly. Victimization. Some have also suggested that, especially looking at, I remember when HIV became topical in the country, people wouldn't even want to do certain things with someone who was purported to have HIV and all of that. Do you feel, should this bill pass, and the Speaker of Parliament has said it will pass, now the President basically doesn't have an option, but do you feel if the bill passes into law, we could have problems with victimization, knowing who we are as a people? Do you think we can control that? Very briefly.
It's a very difficult question to answer because of the conditional sentence you introduce. If, because knowing what we are experiencing in recent time, will this pass or will it not? So it can be a difficult
it's hypothetical.
Yes. But if you put that one aside, yes, if there are discrimination there are abuses of human rights, I think there are laws that regulate the conduct of the public in this regard. So the law will be followed through. That's it. In every democracy, all right, it is anchored on rule of law, which has two components: equality before the law and due process. You are a student of law, and that when we are all equal before the law, the treatment is the same. And that any decision that you also take, all right, must resonate with the laws of the land. If you go against it, that is why crime is crime. When you breach any law, you are visited by appropriate punishment. So the regime will take care of itself to regulate the conduct of people along these lines.
Let's quickly get into the papers now. Nkrumah rallies support for 3 revenue bills. That's the Daily Graphic newspaper. U.S.-Africa partnership based on mutuality. That's according to American Vice President Kamala Harris. At Graphic National Development Series, give ear to agric experts, Asante to government. Let's look at that. The Asante Otumfuose II has urged the government to listen to knowledgeable voices on agriculture instead of dismissing them as mere criticism. He said, turning around the country's agricultural sector to meet the food needs of the people required pieces of advice and suggestions from experts in the sector. That is the thrust of what he's been saying. Let's quickly go to page 20, where we'll hear from Information Minister Kojo Nkrumah, who says so the Minister of Information, Kojo Nkrumah, is rallying national support from all stakeholders to help pass the 3 revenue bills before Parliament, before the House rises on Friday. Today is Wednesday. The government is hoping to rely on the bills to raise about 4 billion Ghana cedis annually from the Growth and Sustainability Levy Bill, the Income Tax Amendment No. 2 Bill, and the Excise Duty Amendment Bill to shore up domestic revenue flow. The point to be made, though, I've interacted with the Chamber of Commerce, the president or the CEO. I've interacted with the Ghana Union of Traders Association. All the businesses we've spoken to have said the economic situation is strangling them. The Bank of Ghana's policy rate shot up by 150 basis points, bringing the total, when you look at the increments, to 29.5%. The rate, generally. People have said if this keeps on, businesses will simply go under. And here we are with these 3 revenue bills, which will only add to the woes, as some see it. Your quick reactions to these stories?
Yes, I'll start with a good one, of course. The king has always been able to give us something to think about, all right? It's a good call. Why is it a good call? If you watch the way governance has been handled for the past 6 years, I have a little concern. More often than not, when you want to advise government, you share ideas, all right? There are a number of times the government doesn't want to listen to this type of ideas, all right? But governance is a complex process that you need input all the time. And it's a continuous process, all right? A continuum. So when you throw away stakeholders, you have problems. You have problems. And this is what we have seen. Some of the things, the problems that the government finds itself, is simply because sometimes it doesn't work with what stakeholders. But I find it strange because this is a country where we have accepted good governance and incorporated some of its tenets into our constitution, which is evident in the preamble, where we said we will engage people through political participation. We will also ensure transparency, accountability. These are all good governance concepts. So why is it that when it comes to the real practice, you want to shy away from? There's a good thing associated with involving people into a decision. When you involve them, they become part and parcel of the problem. And then when the decision is reached, they are also part, their input is in there. They are prepared to defend that policy when it comes to an attack. Beyond that, you get ideas from them that will go a long way to help the society. They also are in to make sure that whatever they prefer or they suggest to the powers that be will be used for the benefit of everybody. So there are a lot of benefits you derive when you have stakeholder participation. So the King's call is nothing but an apt call that I think government must take into consideration, especially when you're talking about agriculture, which is the foundation of this country. You need ideas, not only in agri, but in all sectors. I'll move on to the information minister's call that all stakeholders must help. It comes back to stakeholders, all right? Difficult times, and I still blame the government that when you were governing and there were difficulties, you were governing, there were challenges. People were suggesting ideas. Government, do A, B, C, D. Government will not listen. Borrowing is becoming too much. No. All that we hear from government is I wait for results. What are the results today? All right. You don't govern as if you are running a private business. When you do that, there is the tendency for you to what? Have difficulty at the end of the day. Now look at the difficulty. You are going around the globe begging people to talk for you so that your debt will be forgiving you.
Right.
You are going around to make sure that you get resources to come in. All these things are unnecessary. If you are factored into the real governance process, by which time you are home and dry. So I think it's a learning curve for government and future government that when we talk, they should listen. They should listen with rapt attention. We are not saying that every idea is important, but that those that matter, you incorporate them into the governance architecture, and that you must accept criticisms. Not all the praises that are always good for you. You need criticisms because they are nothing but oils that grease the wheels of governance, without which every governance process grinds toward a halt.
The Ghanaian Times newspaper, and I'll add the daily guide to it. Harris addresses youth at Black Star Square. U.S. commits to fast-tracking African innovation for economic growth. That story on page 11. There's also Veep others mourn late Kumau Member of Parliament Philip Atah-Baswa. And that's another knock to our political system. MTN cuts sought for construction of $25 million Ghana ICT hub. And Ghana joins Atlantic Cooperation as founding member. That's according to the president. Let's take a quick look at some of those stories. So President Akufo-Addo has announced Ghana's acceptance to join the Atlantic Cooperation as a founding member following an invitation by the United States. He said it was the belief of the government that such cooperation would provide the platform to develop shared approaches to the Atlantic Ocean issues and build on shared capacities and experience for the benefit of the Atlantic Ocean region. On page 12, MTN has cut the sod for the construction of the Ghana ICT hub as part of the broader Ghana Innovation Hub project. The leading telecom company has therefore committed $25 million to support the project. The initiative falls in line with MTN's broader objectives of leading digital solutions for Africa's progress and its commitment towards supporting Ghana's digital agenda. I'll just take a quick look at page 14 for those who may not have much knowledge of the late Kumau MP. The Vice President, Al-Hajj, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, has expressed his condolences to the family of the late Member of Parliament for Kumau in the Ashanti region, Mr. Philip Atah-Baswa, who died on Monday night at age 54. His death was confirmed by the Majority Chief Whip Frank Anodomfre in a tweet on Tuesday morning. The New Patriotic Party MP died at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital, where he had been on admission. We condole with his family. May his soul rest in perfect peace. Quick reactions, Doc.
Yes, I'll start with the late MP. Very unfortunate. We mourn with the family. We share in their pain. We are solidly behind them. It's unfortunate that we are experiencing this thing at this time, especially when you have a very young MP who has prospects and is doing well in Parliament and all that. It's very, very unfortunate. But the good Lord is with them. It's unfortunate we are losing another Baswa because I recall somewhere 2000 thereabout, there was another MP who died in Kumeu, the same name, Baswa. So it's unfortunate that the family or the constituency is losing MPs like that. Very, very unfortunate. But we pray and then that the good Lord will support them in this difficult time. We are with them. Now you move on to the Atlantic membership group that Ghana has joined.
Atlantic Cooperation.
Yes, brilliant idea. I support the government. I support the president for that effort because take it or leave it, the ocean is one of the resources that you need at all times. We are blessed that we have this. So any issue about it, you want to be careful and take it seriously because there are a lot of benefits. Look at landlocked countries. They are struggling. They don't have that. We have. So there are issues in recent times that have come up regarding the sea limit what we call in political science the C limits. All right. And if we address these things, it helps. Look at the offshore oil mining that we are doing and all that. These are some of the things that will help us. Look at, terrorist groups and other, insurgent groups who are also using the ocean for nefarious activities and all that. So if you have a body that will look at all these things and help, and even dumping of what poisonous or toxic material within the system.
Right.
All these things are going to be looked at, and it's beautiful. I also support the MTN project. It's a good one. If you look at the telecommunication industry, a very beautiful concept that has really helped the world. I am thinking, last time I was asking myself, if we have not had this type of technology and knowledge, what would have happened to unemployment? All right. We would have staggering figures and all that. Look at the telecom industry, the millions and millions of people it's employing around the globe. Beautiful program. So I support MTN.
Okay.
Let them go on so that we all benefit from it, at least at a point in time.
Doc, to wrap the conversation finally, the Daily Guide adds NPP MP dies after collapsing in Parliament, a detail that other papers do not add. But 8 perish in Oti River accident, and at least 8 mourners have been confirmed dead in another canoe accident on the Oti River. The victims were part of 11 on board the capsized canoe. And then there is this interesting one in the Finder newspaper. Interestingly, today, the Finder didn't come on the main page. Is the Find, but of course, we all know it's the Finder newspaper. The Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources has dismissed reports that the government owes some seedling providers under the Green Ghana project 2.5 billion Ghana cedis. There's a lot of talk, but according to the members of the association, they are currently frustrated as they are constantly being harassed by banks they secured loans from to procure the seedlings. So Green Ghana, which some of us have been asking, how much exactly has gone into it? How many have survived? What has been the output so far? Well, this has come up now. 2 stories for your quick reflection as we go, Doc.
The seedling project, great one, but we always want to ensure that there's value for money.
Right.
There's no doubt that such projects will support the green environment we want to have at all times, and then save the ecosystem from this threatening ozone layer issues that confront the world, not only Ghana, but the world. So such a project is a laudable one, but we want to do this along the lines of what good governance, where there must be transparency. Transparency requires that you give information and that people must have easy access to the information.
Right.
That is the way to go. And of course, you are accountable for the resources given to you, for the actions you have taken. That's all. Once we are able to do that, we'll make the system work.
We do hope we get there. Would you like to share any words on the canoe incident?
Yes. It almost escaped me. Very unfortunate situation, because we have heard it time and again, the Oti, the Makango areas and all that. I want to understand what is it that is affecting transportation in that area, which is causing a lot of problems in this regard. I believe that the authorities must assemble the stakeholders,
right,
and then find a lasting solution to the problem there. Because in that area, if you are familiar in that terrain, that is one of the best means of transport. Yeah. So if you have such difficulties, you're going to create problems. People are going to cut away from market areas to be able to travel to other places. Is going to be impeded. We want to build a better Ghana, a Ghana that we all have a means of livelihood and we are all alive. So I believe that stakeholders have taken political notice of this and they will do the right thing.
Doc, as always, we're grateful for your time. Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante is a political scientist.
I'm also grateful.
And head of the Center for European Studies at the University of Ghana. This segment, the News Review, has been brought to you by Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, and they're offering free prostate screening, free female fertility screening as well. Locate them in Accra, Spintex, opposite the Shell signboard in Tema Community 22, Takrady Anaji State, Kumasi Krodoma Bwehia behind the Angel Educational Complex. Techiman Hanswa and Esiama Nzema. You can reach them on 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. But definitely, as sports comes up next, the Black Meteors sealed their Morocco 2023 qualification by pipping the Algerians to it. We drew in Algeria, we beat them here. We'll bring you that and more in sports. Do stay.